Tonight we traveled to Portugal to see a lovely couple and chat about tea. Before me going through our chat, I would like to ask this lovely couple to have an introduction.
Okay. Well, my name is Vientiene.
And I'm Elizabeth.
And we are a traveling tea couple. Elizabeth's American, I am British. And we have been traveling for tea on a permanent basis, location independent, for the last 4 years. And we travel all about, mostly Southeast Asia, a year in India and Western and Central Europe. And we're very, very happy to be here chatting and being part of the Tea Lovers Journal.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot. That's great. I've been following you guys for a year or so. I think we have been talking to each other via Instagram, and that's great to see each other at least virtually. Hopefully there will be a chance to catch up face to face, either in Melbourne, Australia, or in Portugal. But let's see what will happen. Get back to our chat. I mean, based on what you guys see in the last few years in your area, I mean, in Portugal or the town you're living, what you can say about the tea industry and tea culture for the people living there?
So we only moved to Portugal this March, one day before all the lockdowns started. So our experience of Portugal may be somewhat unusual, as 2020 has been an unusual year. But in Portugal, the predominant drink is coffee, certainly. But it's been very interesting when we've chatted with people and new friends and we said, do you drink tea? And they say, no, I don't drink tea. I just drink chamomile or lemon verbena or rooibos. And go, oh, that's tea. Oh, really? Is it?
It's the same anyway, it's close.
And in any shop, there'll be a small selection of black or green tea and an enormous selection of herbal teas and tisanes. The selection here is the best we've seen, I think, in any country we visited, where a normal grocery store will have a really big section of some herbal teas we've never even seen before. And the markets will have a very large selection. But for actual true teas, it's still a nascent market, despite having in the Azores, they have the Guariana tea plantations, which is Europe's oldest and I think maybe the only tea gardens, although I know there is one in Scotland now.
Yeah, they are. It's quite amazing that they do grow tea in Europe, but it's just not so famous. Also, Portugal, as you'll know, has a huge history of importing tea, from Indonesia, all their ports in India, from around the world. So it's interesting that it didn't catch on quite as much here as, say, in the UK, where, of course, from their empire and things, it definitely caught on. It's growing up in the UK, people have tea 5-6 times a day as a regular thing. You don't have cigarette breaks, you have tea breaks at any time of the day in work or at home. For Elizabeth, it certainly was a little bit of a surprise.
It's fantastic coming to the UK and suddenly being completely saturated with tea.
Yeah.
That's great. And what would be, I mean, when you go to the shop, as you guys said, you can see different sort of tea or herbal. What about the blend? Is it common to have tea blends? Herbal blends somehow?
And again, not actually so popular here. Most of these herbals and packets of tea that we've not seen elsewhere, they're mostly pure teas. And a lot of it is locally dry tea, maybe orange blossom, jasmine blossom, and only that, not mixed with green tea necessarily or anything like that. So that, again, was a surprise to us to see these large packets of what we might think of blending ingredients. But they're very popular here.
To give an idea of how common, there's just a local restaurant here that we've gone to a few times since moving here, and the husband and wife who run it are very friendly, and we were chatting with them one night and we mentioned that we're tea travelers and bloggers and have a tea shop, and they went to the kitchen and came back with some huge bags of lemon verbena, and they said, oh, we grow it ourselves and we make it. And now whenever we go eat there, they bring us a new bag of freshly harvested lemon verbena. And That's never happened to us anywhere. So it gives you an idea of how common herbal teas are.
Yeah, these infusions, things like
And
that.
they're pure. They're just pure.
That's great. Get back to your account, your Instagram account, since I love it. I follow you guys, as I said, for a while, and I love different countries you have been to, different experiences you have had. Can you guys elaborate a little bit more about the travels that you have had? I think you mentioned about 30 countries.
Yeah. In the last 4 years, we've hit 30 countries in altogether. I think we've hit 50. So we feel very privileged to have traveled so much.
That's great.
And we have been most excited when we are in the tea fields of Taiwan or Vietnam or
India.
In India. We spent, like I mentioned, a whole year in South India near one of the major production areas of Nilgiri and Munnar. Not so famous, an expert like yourself will have had Nilgiri tea, but for a lot of people, they've not encountered it.
Think of Assam and Darjeeling, but Nilgiri certainly is less known, and then Munnar is not really that well known outside of India.
But produces a huge amount of tea, and it's beautiful. And when you are there, because of the costs of India also very different, you can buy these huge leaves or small leaves. Everything is loose leaf for cents or pence on. It's really amazing.
Very affordable tea.
And of course, luckily, often you think of very cheap teas and things. Maybe labor is not treated very well. However, in this area, it's a huge cooperative. So that's quite unusual. It's 25,000 people.
It's 25,000 person town. And 12,000 employees, 12,000 people from the town work for the tea cooperative.
Yeah.
And it had been owned and run by Tata until 2005, and then they moved out of it, and it was bought by the employees. And so it's an enormous tea cooperative that covers the Munnar area.
It's sort of a ray of hope in terms of ethical tea, tea that treats the workers and owners, in a positive way, not overworking people. So in our tea travels, we've really enjoyed in seeing more than just the tea, the people behind it, the factories, and in daily life as well. Especially when we spend enough time in a country, we can meet families, meet people from that country, and not just in a tour shop or in a tea shop on the high street, things like that.
It was quite fascinating. We spent some time in Alishan in the mountains in Taiwan, and for anyone watching this who's had an Alishan oolong, you can't go back. It's just incredible, beautiful teas, and the home of milky oolong. And it was amazing. You drive through in little towns, and it's just house after house after house with an open tea room, and then small production areas, because one family will they'll have a tea garden and they'll be producing their own oolongs. And so it was truly like dying and going to heaven. And every restaurant, and just by default, there was some high mountain oolong and beautiful tea. And there was one family, Taiwan has a variety of different indigenous tribes as well. And there was one tribal family that had gone into tea, and it was really interesting learning about that, because tea has traditionally not been grown by indigenous peoples in the more modern mechanized way. And so when talking with different tea growers there, they're saying it's fantastic, this family is joined and they're facing different pressure from their own community, but they're coming in and trying and making this fantastic new tea. And just as Ian said, learning about kind of the people and the communities behind it has been really interesting, because one thing, if I could change one thing about the world of tea, is that there's a lot more information on the packaging about who's growing it, what the stories are, and how it's made, because there is just such a wealth of information, and it is often quite surprising.
Yeah, that's great. And out of those countries, except for example Taiwan or other countries that you touched on, do you remember anything else you want to share with us in those lovely trips that you have had?
Well, talking of India, actually, there was quite a shocking experience that was related to tea. It was a 4-hour drive to get deep into the tea mountains, and it's quite amazing. You go from the coast of Kochi, one of the large cities in the state of Kerala, a beautiful state, and so it's hot and humid down there. 4 hours into the mountains, you need jumpers and coats. It's cold. It's trousers and everything.
And the roads are just tight, windy, corkscrew roads.
Like go to the mountain somehow, or not?
Yes, just
deep into the mountains.
Wow. One trip we've been a few times happily, but one trip on the way back we hired a taxi for a few days, and on these mountain passes, you can get a little woozy with back and forwards. So we did stop at one of the many ubiquitous chai stands where they've made huge vats of chai in the morning, and it stays hot. They serve it throughout the day.
And it's a strong black tea, and then they mix it with the milk and sugar, and it's
delicious.
Diabetic's delight.
Yeah, it's so very, very, very sweet. We did stop on one of these trips, and I was not feeling great, so I stayed in the taxi, put the seat back, had a little nap. Elizabeth went out with the taxi driver, sat with the chai stand and everyone else there.
And we're just drinking our cups of tea, enjoying being in the jungle. Okay, we're not going through these corkscrew roads. And then there's a large thump onto the car, and Vientiene kind of opened one eye and thought maybe a branch had fallen.
I see like a large leaf on the windscreen. Never mind, I'll go back to sleep. And then I woke up with a start, hearing screams and shouts from the chai stand. Like, what is happening? I sit up, I look out. At the same time as a massive bright green and bright red snake starts going down the windscreen.
Wow.
Turns the corner around the wing mirror and starts to enter the car.
Wow. So scary.
Oh my God.
Because we know enough about snakes in South India to know that one's probably pretty venomous.
Bright colours are never a good thing.
And so Vientiene hopped out of the car at great speed, and then of course our taxi driver was thinking, if this snake goes into the engine, like, what are we going to do?
You can't drive away. You can't trust it's a snake.
We need to get the snake out of this car. And so it was like 5 of us from the chai stand all came running out with different boards and rocks and pelting the car. So the car came out of it worse for the wear. And then the poor snake went, oh my God. And thankfully left the car and hurried away. We quickly finished our chai and got back on the road.
That's great. In addition to what you guys are doing, I mean, the travel and some sort of hobby, I can call it. Any tea-related business somehow that you guys are doing?
Yes.
Wow, I didn't know.
So we started our Traveling for Tea blog a few years ago because we just love tea and wanted to share our experiences.
Travelingfortea.com.
And so in doing that, as we started to research more about tea to write our blog posts, and just to learn about where we were, we found there was a real lack of good quality information online about tea, and particularly the science side of tea. That there's a lot of dubious information out there, and a lot of miracle cures and things where you go, is that true or not? And so this got us thinking about, well, what can we offer? We both come from more scientific backgrounds. And so anyway, long story short, we started our own tea shop last year, and it's an online tea shop called matchaalternatives.com. Because as we were researching and learning, matcha is such a superfood trend because of its antioxidant quantities and levels.
The health benefits.
And as we researched, we went, oh, hang on, that is entirely down to one really bad, flawed study where they mismeasured it, basically. And matcha has a good number of antioxidants, but it's not, it is kind of middle of the road when you compare it to, it's a bit more than green tea, it's far less than honeybush. Rooibos is more, moringa has more antioxidants. So, it's a good part of your diet, but it's not it's not really the superfood level of head and shoulders above the rest.
From there, we really got our idea that we started meeting so many people and researching online and finding people were saying they would love to get into matcha, but it's so expensive, it can be bitter, you know, if it's not the very, very highest quality. And so we came up with matchaalternatives.com. All our teas are super high in antioxidants and a whole range of teas and tisanes for people. The other side, which is sort of more relevant here, where we're talking about tea health benefits, is the other side of the business is this tea blog, tea science blog. And we're so proud that we can provide so many blogs and articles that don't exist online. You know, what are the antioxidants you actually find in green tea, and what do they do? What do the research studies found in the medical journals, what do they say? So less of the pseudoscience, less of the miracle cures, but something sort of robust and grounded and translated so people can understand it. We don't have to be doctors to understand it. And that's been a really fun and exciting new avenue, a new path in our tea journey.
And just to add on to that, one kind of a big development for us and our tea knowledge is, before starting Matcha Alternatives, most of our tea knowledge was about true tea from the Camellia sinensis plant. And then there are herbal teas, and okay, you know, we'd have some rooibos, but we didn't think that much about it. And then as we began to research, and also in our travels, discovering, you know, some countries where there's not that much true tea, but there's a heavy focus on different tisanes, and that's a core part of daily life. And so as we've learned more, there are some really pretty cool herbal teas out there, and it's for a lot of tea purists, and I definitely have been guilty of this in the past, going, well, it's not true tea, it can't possibly be good, and then realizing, no, I'm completely wrong about that, that there is a time and a place for all of these different herbals, and they all do different things, and it's really fun playing around with them or
blending them with true tea. It's so funny. When we talk about tea blends, often with even tea lovers, sometimes we hear, oh, never have a blend, you know, tea purist, pure tea only. And then we ask, oh, you hate jasmine tea, you hate Earl Grey? They're blends, and people go, oh yeah.
They don't see it as a blend.
Exactly. Or English breakfast, which is just blends of different black teas.
Yeah, it's not pure. It's Kenyan, and you know, for a little Darjeeling maybe, and Kimon tea, and all these things.
So it's just discovering how, you know, you dig deeper and then you find there's a lot more to learn, and there's always more to learn about it. And so that's been really a joy of starting this tea shop. We get to do it for work
following now. Tea Lovers Journal as well. You really focus on, you like enjoying the health benefits especially, and we've been learning a lot from your Instagram.
Yeah, we love it.
Thanks a lot. I mean, that would be good. What I do, I will share that with our followers, since I myself, I was not aware of that account. I was following your Traveling for Tea accounts, but that's good for us. Forget the business side. Business side is one aspect, but learning is the other aspect. So we have two aspects to look at it. So which is great. And then definitely the people would love to see the information that you guys sharing on that account. I myself, I don't recall anything else for the timing for our chat. Do you guys want to add anything? Anything missing?
One thing that I would like to mention for anyone wanting to learn about tea and wanting to kind of dive into this world, the fastest way to really, that we've found, is just been a really good way to meet people in the tea industry, to meet other tea lovers, and is very efficient rather than traveling to different tea gardens in different countries, especially in this now with coronavirus, is tea conferences and trade shows.
Very true.
The Specialty Tea Alliance, every year they publish a list of all tea events in the world. And that every year when they publish that has guided what our travel itinerary would be for the year.
Do this and then go here and then fly here and things like that.
And so, okay, we need to go to Singapore for these dates for that trade conference. We need to go to Taiwan for these dates for that one. We need to go to Bangkok for this. Hong Kong for that one, and it's fantastic because
it's just dozens or hundreds of beautiful teas, everything being brewed, you know, freshly for you. You can taste, you can buy, and sometimes you're talking, you know, with if it's a massive company like. And you can talk to salespeople, but a lot of the time you're talking with the farmers, you're talking with the owners, you're talking with the people who really manage and create the tea. And it's such a wonderful experience. We've met so many people that we're still in touch with at these tea conferences, and usually they're free.
Yeah.
So it's something that when we meet tea people and people who are very experienced in tea, they only those very experienced people may have been to tea conferences, but
it's accessible.
It's actually, we would like to share with your viewers that if you can find them and see there's one in a city near you, usually they're free, it's really accessible, and you have a wonderful time.
Yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I myself, I did the same. I attended few seminar and workshop, and as you guys mentioned, I learned a lot. I mean, one point is socializing and know the people, whether they are doing tea business or just they are tea lover, attending that seminar.
Yeah.
The other way, I mean, is improving your knowledge, since as you guys mentioned, there are a lot behind tea and herbal. Sometimes when you talk to the people, they say, oh, black tea, yeah. But if you want to talk about black tea, you can write a book about black tea.
Exactly.
I myself, I have few books about tea, and each of them few hundred pages of stories about tea and the health benefits and everything. So you guys, I mean, that's definitely true, and we need to learn, and then we can see that gap, and that's good that you guys sharing that with your followers, and I do the same. And then yeah, that's it. Anything else from your end that you want to add? All good?
Just, I think
just very good, very appreciative
really
that
grateful.
we're part of this, and that's very exciting to see it go up on your channel, and we're very excited to see that.
It's really lovely to chat with you. Thank you so much for having us on.
Meeting you and learning about Melbourne and your experiences in Iran and your own tea experiences. That was very nice to me.
Thank you so much. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for your time. Hopefully to catch up with you guys either in Portugal or in Melbourne, Australia. Take care, stay safe. We will be in touch.
Okay,
You as well.
wonderful.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Bye.
Goodbye.